It's a sad day for the family of a brave woman who fought for her life after being burned alive. Judy Malinowski, a one-time beauty queen and mom of two, has died after a 2-year struggle for survival. Now her ex-boyfriend, Michael Slager, may be facing murder charges. He has already been sentenced to 11 years for aggravated assault. Prosecutor Ron O'Brien.
We are committed to prosecuting him for the most serious charge we think's available, and we believe that's aggravated murder.
I need you to stop screaming because I can't understand what you're saying.
The 33-year-old woman tried to break up with Slager as they sat at a gas station outside Columbus, Ohio. Judy bolted from his car. Slager chased her, doused her with gasoline, then lit her into a human fireball. Judy's mom, Bonnie.
They told me that he had doused her in gasoline and set her on fire.
Ever since that terrible day, Judy has been a patient at Ohio State University Medical Center, where she underwent 50 surgeries for burns covering 85% of her body. Her mother had to put on a gown and gloves in order to visit.
Hi, Mommy.
Judy's young daughters, Kaylin and Madison, also had to put on protective gowns and gloves to be by their mom's bedside.
Please help my mom get better.
Judy allowed Inside Edition to air this video because she wanted other abused women to learn from her experience and seek help before it's too late.
Judy Malinowski fought to stay alive for nearly 700 days after her ex-boyfriend set her on fire. Now there is a new push to put her attacker behind bars for life, months after Judy died. Thank you for joining us tonight at 11. I'm Ellie Merritt.
I'm Mark Taylor. Tonight, her death has officially been ruled a homicide due to the severe burns she endured during her attack 2 years ago.
NBC4's Rob Sneed joins us live tonight, and we just heard from the Franklin County prosecutor Ron O'Brien and got the coroner's report. Rob?
Yeah, and according to that report, Ellie, she died of late thermal injuries. Now that the truth is out, Prosecutor Ron O'Brien says he will move forward accordingly. Tonight, NBC4 learning the autopsy results show Judy Malinowski's death is a result of her being set on fire. Franklin County Prosecutor Ron O'Brien told NBC4 his office is taking the necessary steps to pursue aggravated murder charges against her boyfriend, Michael Slager. The images of this mother were too hard for some to see. Authorities say Slager set Malinowski on fire outside of a Gahanna gas station back in August 2015. A Franklin County judge allowed Malinowski to tape a deposition from her hospital bed just in case she died from her injuries. The young mother endured 59 surgeries but was finally moved to a care center in May 2017. She died just a month later. Slager was sentenced to prison where he still maintains this was all an accident. Following Malinowski's death, her 13-year-old daughter, Kaylin, said, quote, "Well, he got 11 years. My mom, my sister, and I all got life sentences." And O'Brien tells me he will present this case to the grand jury within the next couple of weeks. Live at the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, Rob Sneed, NBC4.
Rob, thank you. Now, Judy fought until her last day in the hospital for a bill that was named in her honor. Governor John Kasich officially signed Judy's Law earlier this month, joined by her 2 daughters and mother at the State House. Judy's Law will now extend prison time for anyone who is convicted of using an accelerant like gasoline to harm or disfigure someone.
We have a story tonight of one woman's extraordinary quest for justice after her own boyfriend burned her alive. The true story of Ohio mother Judy Malinowski is the subject of a gripping documentary, The Fire That Took Her. It is now streaming on Paramount Plus. A word of warning, the video you're about to see is disturbing. In 2015, the mother of 2 was at a gas station with her boyfriend when they got into an argument. The couple had a history of fighting, and on this day, the boyfriend, Michael Slager, doused Judy with gasoline. Surveillance video and 911 calls captured the sickening scene that followed.
Okay, stop screaming because I can't understand you. I got you. I got this set a woman on fire.
Incredibly, Malinowski survived, but with burns on 90% of her body, she spent months in a coma. Slager agreed to a plea deal for aggravated arson and got 11 years in prison. But Malinowski wanted justice for his actions. She knew she would probably not survive, and that Slager could then potentially be charged with murder. So she videotaped a deposition from her hospital bed. This made her the first person in Ohio and one of the first in the country to testify at their own murder trial. Her testimony from beyond the grave helped give Slager a life sentence for murder. And joining us now with more on this incredible story are Patricia Gillespie, director of The Fire That Took Her, here in the studio with me, and Bonnie Bowes, Judy Malinowski's mother and Judy's advocate. Bonnie, I want to start with you. No one thought your daughter would live. Judy was burned over so much of her body. She coded 7 times. You were called to the hospital the day she was burned, but no one could prepare you for what you were about to see. Your precious girl just burned alive. What was that like?
When I arrived at the hospital, I just seen my child. I just seen my baby, and I was so relieved that she was alive, albeit it was just through a temporary airway on a ventilator.
In the documentary, at one point, you sit with the police detective as he shows you the surveillance footage of Michael setting your daughter on fire. Why did you want to see this?
Respectfully, I could not comprehend that a human would do something like this to another human being. I just could not, in fact, I just couldn't believe it. They kept telling me that, but as I began to see how badly my child was hurt, I just couldn't comprehend that they were telling me that he had beat her and set her on fire. It's hard to believe.
It's shocking to believe, and my heart broke for you as I watched you sit there and watch that footage. Patricia, you made this documentary about this case. You include footage of the detective questioning Michael Slager in the hospital a short time after the ambulances have arrived and taken Judy Malinowski to the hospital. Let's take a look at that footage, because he tried to lie about what happened. Take a look.
I didn't think I got, there was that, realized it was going to be that. Sure. So I walked over to give her a light. That was it.
And then she just...
And when she went up, I couldn't believe it. I just didn't think that it was going to be like that.
Okay, Michael's story falls apart right away because the detective says, dude, we've got, surveillance footage showing you dumping gasoline and then 30 seconds later setting fire on her, right?
Right, yeah. I think so the footage is actually from an ATM nearby the location, so I think Michael initially didn't understand that there was video at all. And that's where the story came from, that Judy had accidentally splashed gas on herself. And then, in the interrogation, he starts to create this story about how he's the ultimate gentleman trying to light her cigarette after a fight, which is highly implausible.
After he splashes gasoline on her.
Totally.
Then she's sitting on the ground and asks for a cigarette?
I think, Michael was a guy with a very long criminal history, a lot of experience in abusing women, a lot of experience in being able to sort of evade law enforcement, and I think he was very confident in shooting his shot there, and thankfully Detective Cohagen didn't let him wriggle out of it.
It looked like from moment one the police saw right through him, and because at its heart this is a story of domestic violence. This man had a record a mile long.
Definitely, and not just with Judy, with many other women, but unfortunately this sentencing is so light for these kinds of crimes that he was never really stopped. He escalated.
Bonnie, Judy knew she was going to die, and she had to come off her pain medication in order to do a 3-hour deposition against Michael in excruciating pain. It was difficult to watch, but here is some of it.
He ran around with me and started pouring gasoline, started up my head and worked his way down. Some got through my throat as he did that. That hurt really bad.
Bonnie, that deposition, it must have been so painful for her to do this, but it was the crucial thing that helped him sit behind bars for the rest of his life.
That is correct. And I had my concerns with her testifying to her own homicide, but Judy was adamant for justice for women, and she continued to tell me, and I quote, "Mom, if my suffering helps one woman from domestic violence with testifying, then justice will be served and her suffering wouldn't be in vain."
Well, her testifying is what led to him being convicted of murder and getting a life without possibility of parole sentence. So, and Judy's Law, which was passed in honor of her to help victims of domestic violence, had better penalties and better legal avenues. So, Bonnie Bowes, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your daughter did something truly extraordinary. And boy, congratulations.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.
The Gahanna woman who inspired legislation for tougher sentences in felonious assault cases died today. Judy Malinowski was just 33 years old. Thank you for joining us at 5. I'm Colleen Marshall.
I'm Mark Taylor. Her passing comes on the same day that Judy's Law moves forward at the Ohio State House. It's now one vote away from heading to the governor's desk. Now, NBC4 first brought you the news of Judy's death and an alert from our news app this afternoon.
And tonight we have team coverage of this story. Rob Sneed looking into the possibility of new charges against Judy's attacker, her ex-boyfriend, Michael Slager. He could now be faced with murder.
But first, let's get right to Katie Farrell, who's been following this story since the very beginning. She joins us live from St. Anne's Hospital with the very latest. Katie?
You know, I spoke with Judy's mom and her kids today at home, and as you can imagine, it's a really tough, sad day for this entire family. Judy passed away here at the hospital behind me this morning with her devoted mom, Bonnie, right there by her side like she has always been through this. Judy had been receiving end-of-life care for the past few months as her health slowly deteriorated. Her doctors said they had no medical explanation in the end as to how she was able to stay alive over these past few weeks. Bonnie said she is confident her daughter was fighting to see Judy's Law through to the very end. Now, this is all still just sinking in for Judy's girls. She leaves behind a 13 and 9-year-old Kaylin and Madison. Today, they told me how much they already miss their mom and how they worry if everything's going to be okay now. They talked to me in February about how tough the past 2 years have been.
I wish this wouldn't have even happened.
I wish that if I could just rewind, I would
chain her up in the basement so she couldn't get out.
Such sweet girls, it just breaks your heart to hear something like that. You know, in February, we asked you, our viewers, to send us cards to give to Judy, and we got them by the hundreds. We want to say thank you. The girls read them to their mom while she was in the hospital, and they really found it to be a heartwarming thing to do together. We're now asking for our viewers to send cards to the girls. So if you want to learn more, go to our website, send them to us, and we will make sure that her little girls, her sweet little girls, get those messages. And our team coverage continues now. We want to send it back to the newsroom. Rob Sneed live at the Watch for Alert desk with the possible new charges Judy's attacker faces. Rob?
Well, prosecutor Ron O'Brien says he is sad to hear about Judy's passing, but wasn't surprised. He says he doesn't believe Slager has any remorse. Now, this was Michael Slager in court back in December 2016. He pleaded no contest to the charges against him. Now, the court sentenced him to 11 years in prison for aggravated arson, but now that Judy is dead, the prosecutor says he will now review all of Judy's recent medical records and wait for an exact cause of death. Now, if the aggravated arson is what killed Judy, then Slager will be indicted for aggravated murder, according to the prosecutor.
She was obviously loved by her family, will be missed by her family, and we have committed to them that we will seek a homicide charge and seek justice on her behalf.
And court records also show that Slager has a history of domestic violence. O'Brien hopes to know the cause of death within the next several weeks. Rob Sneed, NBC4.
And getting justice for Judy continues tonight. Her death comes on the same day that legislation named in her honor makes a giant leap forward. Judy's Law passed unanimously out of a Senate committee today. It now heads to the full Senate floor for a vote. The potential law adds 6 years to sentences in cases like Judy's, where an accelerant is used and the victim is disfigured. Representative Jim Hughes, who introduced the legislation, says he's confident Judy's legacy will live on in this new law.
Her legacy is going to live on through this legislation. I just can't state enough how much she suffered and didn't even take some medicine to talk to me and others about what this legislation meant to her.
Now, this bill passed unanimously out of the House. Representative Hughes does not see any opposition in the Senate. Now, the Senate could vote on Judy's Law as early as tomorrow, meaning that Judy's Law could be a reality before lawmakers break for summer recess.
NBC4 has been closely following Judy's story for the past 2 years. She was doused with gasoline and set on fire outside a Gahanna gas station back in August of 2015. In January, she recorded a deposition that could be used as evidence in a future murder trial. Judy's Law was introduced in the House back in February, passed in May. That same month, Judy was moved to a palliative care center. NBC4 set up a fund to help Judy and her family. With your help, we've collected more than $3,000. Judy's family says they will use those funds to pay for her funeral costs and to help her daughters. You can still donate at any Huntington bank and tell them you want to donate to the Judy Malinowski Fund. You can count on NBC4 for updates as well on Judy's case on air and online at NBC4i.com. You can see our stories about her journey by clicking on the News tab on our homepage.
Now at 6, it's a story that touched many of our hearts and broke them. And we want to warn you that some of this next story could be hard to watch.
Remember, call back in 2015, Judy Malinowski was doused in gasoline by her ex-boyfriend and set on fire. She suffered through unimaginable pain for nearly 2 years before succumbing to her injuries in 2017. After that, Judy's Law was enacted, increasing the penalty for any domestic abuser who uses an accelerant. Now, several students are working together to make Judy's Law even stronger, and it's an effort being led by her own daughter. 10 TV's Brittany Bailey shares this teen's mission for her mom.
Hello, Mr. Chairman and Senate Committee. My name is Kaylin Malinowski. I am Judy's daughter.
This is how many of us remember Kaylin Malinowski.
Please pass my mom's law.
It was 2017, and she was just 13 years old, bravely testifying before state lawmakers, pleading for the passage of Judy's Law.
It was like nerve-wracking because I was like doing something that was going to make an impact later on.
And it did. She and her younger sister Madison were right by the governor's side when he signed Judy's Law. And the following year, she also was front and center when her mother's killer took a plea deal, allowing him to avoid the death penalty.
But looking back at that one incident, I was just upset that he was able to carry on the parent-child relationship and I wasn't.
But that wasn't the courtroom moment that left the most lasting impact. Instead, it was when she heard her mother's recorded testimony for the first time, months after she had died.
I thought for sure I was dying. I just prayed to Jesus to please forgive me for my sins and to take care of my children.
And Kaylin heard her mother's voice again at the same time as everyone else in the courtroom.
Like, I knew it was serious, but it made me realize that it was like even more serious than I already thought it was, and it made me like just still be in awe that like she had the courage to stand up after that happened and like tell everybody what happened.
Now this 17-year-old is summoning up her own courage to follow in her mother's footsteps. She wants to find a way to better protect others from domestic violence.
Like, that was like a huge part of my life, and like it like defines who I am today. So I admire her strength, and I definitely like hope that that strength lives on through me.
Pretty sure it does. Do you feel that?
I feel like it does, yeah. Like, because I have courage to do certain things that like if it didn't happen, I probably wouldn't necessarily do.
Now Kaylin is working on a class project to try to expand Judy's Law. The students want 9 years to be tacked onto a sentence instead of 6, and they want it to apply to not just attackers who use an accelerant.
I'm really excited to be part of this team and push it.
I think that if there's more, like the laws are more broad, then people will be able to feel more comfortable reporting it.
Kaylin is strong and determined, but she's also still a teenager, well aware of what she's missing and of her mother's unfulfilled dreams.
Thinking about it, there's like so many things that like she's gonna miss. I mean, like graduation is like 90 something days away. So like, that's just crazy that like she's not going to be there for that.
She may not be here, but her legacy most certainly is, carried on in this daughter's mission for her mother.
I would hope that she was proud, and I think that she would just like be glad that I was continuing to stick up for what was right.
Brittany Bailey, 10 TV News.
Well, Caitlin and her classmates hope to persuade lawmakers to take up their cause. They've been in contact with a few, including State Representative Mary Lightbody.
Caitlin and her group seem to think that increasing the penalty will increase the deterrent level. I'm not sure. I think that people's emotions get tied up so tightly in these things that sometimes they're not able to control themselves in the moment. And I would wish that a law change would help, but you know, I think we need to work on mental health issues as well.
Representative Lightbody says she plans to work with the students and help them through the process.
Today, a brave young girl stood up for her mother, Judy Malinowski, at the Ohio State House. Her oldest daughter, Caitlin Malinowski, testified before a Senate committee about what Judy's law would mean to her. Judy is the Gahanna woman who was horrifically burned after being set on fire by her ex-boyfriend. NBC4's Katie Farrell is live in Gahanna, where that awful crime took place nearly 2 years ago. Katie?
That's right, Ellie. That horrific crime taking place right here at this gas station behind me here in Gahanna. You know, I actually got to see Judy in her in her hospital room last weekend. And doctors say they really have no medical explanation as to how she is still alive. But Judy's mom, Bonnie Bose, says she believes that Judy is fighting to see Judy's law through to the very end. As you mentioned today, Judy's oldest daughter, Caitlin, testified in front of that Senate committee. Her daughter spoke on her behalf. It was an emotional day for the 13-year-old who told that committee in her own words that while the man who committed the crime got 11 years, her mom, sister, and she got a life sentence. She also said how when he gets out of prison, she will be 22 then, and no one knows if and when he will hurt again. I spoke with Caitlin today, and she says it wasn't easy to speak in front of all those adults, but that she did it because she knows it would make her mom happy.
She means a lot to me. She's really special, and she's funny, and she's pretty. And she looks just like me. No, I look just like her.
And the bill sponsor, Representative Jim Hughes, hopes that this bill will be passed through the legislature by the end of this month. We will, of course, be following as it makes its way through the Senate. And basically, we will continue to update you with all that information as we get it. Live in Gahanna, Katie Farrell, NBC4.
All right, Katie, thank you.
We've heard from so many of you since we first shared Judy Malinowski's story. She is the Gahanna woman who was horrifically burned after being doused with gasoline and intentionally set on fire by her ex-boyfriend.
At NBC4's Katie Farrell, she spent some time with the family, and tonight she takes Judy's mother to a local park to meet another survivor of domestic violence.
Judy had never met another victim of domestic violence. Tonight you'll see when they met and how they're inspiring each other to keep fighting.
This is what courage sounds like.
No, honey, you're fine.
This is what courage looks like. Two women ready to fight.
I've had a couple of things for you.
Both are survivors.
Always have that.
More about this meeting in a moment. But first, how did they get here? By now, you know Judy Malinowski's story. 57 surgeries, 18 months, a can of gasoline. Her ex-boyfriend sits in prison for setting her on fire.
We finally get a chance to meet. Hi, sweetie. How are you?
A battle brought them together, one they each fight in different ways.
We've met a survivor. You're the first one we've met.
Both women wear scars. Only Marika Phipps's are visible.
My ex attempted to kill me.
Bonnie Bose's injuries are on the inside. Her daughter can't walk with her in this park.
They don't give her good odds. In my heart, I'm a little afraid that
she's going to give up.
That's the reason for this meeting.
You love your child, but you also know that your child needs more than you.
Someone like Marika, who knows courage isn't always easy.
You will not break me.
That's the message she shared with Judy.
What it says is strength, courage, and hope, which is everything that you have. It's exactly who you are.
Now they share an unbreakable bond, a bond that has not broken them, one they wish they did not have.
I don't know if I've ever met braver women. Despite what they've been through, they remain positive and want to help others. You can help Judy, who remains in critical condition. We here at NBC4 set up the Judy Malinowski Fund. Just go to any Huntington Bank branch to donate. And Judy loves cards. Send them here, and we'll make sure she gets them. You can find this information on our website, NBC4i.com. And next week, I share Marika's amazing story of survival. Katie Farrell, NBC4.
All right, thank you so much, Katie, for that report. And she's done some incredible work with that family and what they've been through. It's just hard to imagine.
Well, a bipartisan bill in Ohio House would help victims of dating violence. Now, the bill would let someone who is a victim of dating violence seek a protective order against an alleged perpetrator.
It updates current law, which only recognizes violence between spouses, family members, or those living together. It would also give victims of dating violence access to domestic violence shelters.
Well, there is word tonight of a possible plea agreement in the murder trial of Michael Slager. He's the man accused of pouring gasoline on his ex-girlfriend Judy Malinowski and setting her on fire, causing her death. Slager's trial is set to begin on Friday, but this hearing has suddenly and unexpectedly been scheduled for tomorrow morning. NBC4 reporter Ted Hart has more on these latest developments. Ted.
Yeah, the bailiff for Judge Guy Reese sent out a notice late last night that there has been an important development in the case of Michael Slager. The victim's mother said today that discussions of a plea deal have been ongoing.
The case is noteworthy not just for the horrific nature of the crime, but also it's a first where the victim of a murder provided a video deposition to be used in the trial of her accused killer. Michael Slager was first convicted of aggravated arson and felonious assault, but after Judy Malinowski died last year, Slager was charged with aggravated murder with death penalty specifications.
Assuming that there is a plea tomorrow, my hat's off to the judicial system and the thousands of dollars too that it stayed the state.
Malinowski's mother, Bonnie Bose, says she remains prepared for a trial or a plea agreement.
I did ask that they unseal Judy's testimony, and we have fought for that, whether there's a plea or not, and the judge has agreed to do that. So one way or the other, whether at a plea or trial, the testimony will be heard.
We have been talking right from the very beginning.
Franklin County Prosecutor Ron O'Brien would not say whether a deal has in fact been made.
I guess I don't want to characterize what kind of development other than the judge didn't have a final pretrial schedule tomorrow, and after meeting with all parties yesterday, he went ahead and scheduled a final pretrial tomorrow.
And if there is no deal tomorrow, a couple hundred jurors will come in on Friday to fill out questionnaires and begin the jury selection process, which would likely take about a week. Ted Hart, NBC4.
Oh, well, we will, of course, be following this one really closely. Ted, thanks. And as soon as an announcement is made about this trial, we'll have it for you on NBC4i.com and the NBC4 app, as well as on the air. Stay with us for full reports on air here on NBC4.
Michael Slager will spend the rest of his life in prison. One day before his trial was set to begin, Slager agreed to plead guilty to the murder of Judy Malinowski.
This means the death penalty is off the table, but Slager will have no chance for parole. In today's court hearing, we learn new details about the crime and heard directly from the murder victim herself.
NBC4 reporter Ted Hart is live at the courthouse tonight. Ted?
Colleen, Judy Malinowski died as a direct result of the burns that she received in 2015 after she was doused with gasoline and set on fire. And on that day, we now know, Malinowski and Michael Slager had argued about Malinowski going into a drug rehab program for her addiction to heroin. Slager had driven Malinowski to the drug rehab center, but she walked away, saying that she was not ready. In her video deposition taken shortly before she died, Judy Malinowski described how, during an argument that day, she threw a cup of pop on Michael Slager, sending Slager into a rage.
He ran around with me and started pouring gasoline, started at my head and worked his way down.
Malinowski described Slager as having an evil look as he then pulled out a lighter and set her on fire. She survived for nearly 2 years through close to 60 surgeries and extraordinary pain. Her video testimony, seen publicly for the first time today, included a question about punishment for her killer.
I want you to tell a future judge what you want to see happen to Mr. Slager.
I would like to see him charged with murder, and to a extent, I think that he deserves that.
With Slager's guilty plea, Malinowski gets her wish. Slager avoids the death penalty, but will go to prison for life and no chance for parole.
It was the right outcome because it was what Judy wanted.
Malinowski's mother, Bonnie Bowes, says Judy was adamant that Slager not get the death penalty, adding that her daughter expressed hope that Slager would be able to turn his life around in prison. Bowes said she did insist that Slager plead guilty, that he not be allowed to plead no contest. At sentencing, Michael Slager did briefly apologize to both his own and the victims' families.
It's commendable that he did turn and look at us and say he's sorry. Judy was such a kind-hearted, she would be, Mom, that's acceptable, that's what I wanted.
And Slager's attorneys did say that their client does feel remorse and regret. They said that he decided to plead guilty ultimately because he wanted to try to help the healing process for the Malinowski family and his own family. Local for you and live at the Franklin County Courthouse, Ted Hart, NBC4.
It was a case that captivated Central Ohio and beyond. Back in 2015, Judy Malinowski was doused with gasoline and set on fire by her boyfriend, Michael Slagle, after months of abuse. Despite being told she would have just hours to live, Judy fought for 700 days before she died. But before her death, she recorded a statement that would later be used in Slagle's murder trial.
Her story is now being told in a documentary, and her legacy living on in a foundation named in her memory. Matt Barnes has the story.
My name is Judith Malinowski, and I am ready to testify.
It was 4 years ago Judy Malinowski became the first woman to testify at the trial of her own murder. This after enduring 60 surgeries, 7 months in a coma, and numerous skin grafts. But what she lost in her physical appearance, she did not lose in her bravery and spirit. Now her fight is being shown in a documentary called The Fire That Took Her. It's being shown at film festivals in New York, Los Angeles, and Indianapolis.
A lot of people are just really taken back at the fact that an ordinary person who had an ordinary life was able to change so much while she was under so much. She was under so much pain. A lot of people, they really admire her for what she did.
With the help of Judy's testimony in the trial, her boyfriend Michael Slagle was sentenced to life without parole. And Ohio lawmakers passed Judy's Law, which created tougher penalties for those who commit crimes that permanently disable or disfigure. Meanwhile, Judy's family created Judy's Foundation with the hopes of helping families like theirs, assisting those who may be suffering from domestic violence, preventing further tragedies, and strengthening the family unit.
So we just want to be able to welcome in the victims and give them a place to stay that's safe, and also provide counseling. So right now we're just looking at hopefully having a couple of rooms that they could stay in, and then provide on-site counseling, and then there'll also be a measure of security so that they feel safe.
Tomorrow night, Judy's Foundation is hosting a fundraiser called Buckeyes and Barstools. A bunch of Woody's guys like Tom Skladany, Champ Henson, and two-time Heisman Trophy winner Archie Griffin will be there talking about the rivalry. Archie will also be bringing one of his Heismans for fans to take pictures with. The event is from 6 to 9 p.m. and tickets are still available. We have a link to where you can get those tickets in our story on NBC4i.com. As for the documentary, it will be shown nationwide in May with local showings starting in March. Local for you, Matt Barnes, NBC4.